Civility is always in style, and we're so glad to have you join us. Amazing the number of things that are going on in our community, both good and challenging. And COVID has just been a crazy making deal. This made it very hard on families, made it very hard on just a lot of people. But amazing also the number of good things that are going on and people that are doing good stuff. And you can hear us on Powell to the People at KXEX 1550 AM, Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. And we talk politics, education, religion, technology, sports, values, and healthy communities. Today, we're going to talk about writing a little bit. And I've got as my special guest, my beautiful bride, Dot Powell, and she goes by Dot JB Powell. And she has written 3 books, and one of them that she's written is called The Sunday Van Club, where a faith journey leads. And we're going to learn a little more about that. But before we get to that, just want to remind folks, since it is such a crazy time, let's make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect your kids, during this COVID time. And occasionally it may require you to wear a mask. Wear a mask. We're talking about civility and trying to treat people well. We're not saying, okay, I'll get that mask on or you're going to be treated, as evil. But, it does make sense. I wear a mask a lot of times, not for me, but for other folks, just to let them know I care about them. And so I'm going to wear it to say, hey, if my wearing a mask helps you feel protected or safe, I'm going to wear a mask. It's not going to be a big deal to me. But anyway, we're going to talk today about the Sunday Van Club. But we're going to talk about a couple of other things. Dot and I have been married for 52 years coming June. Pretty amazing. And, one of the things that COVID did to us is our 50th wedding anniversary came right in the middle. June, when COVID just hit hard. March it started, and June it hit us. We had planned for a whole lot of people to get together, and we were going to sing 50 songs that were important to us in our lives. And Dot, you remember all that, the work you did?
Oh, forever and ever, I remember.
Yeah, it was amazing. But we had every song that meant something special to us, and we were going to sing some of them ourselves. We were going to have special guests sing them, and we were going to dress up like somebody a little unusual, Green Acres,
Mm-hmm.
So well, you remember all of that?
Oh, yeah. He was the farmer, Eddie Albert.
Yep.
And I was the wife from New York or something.
Yeah, Edie. It was really a fun time. We had a good thing planned, but you know what? We ended up spending the evening together on our back porch on a bench table, and we had a nice dinner, and we celebrated together, and we just moved forward. We didn't let COVID stop us.
And you cooked an amazing dinner.
Well, that was fun. Well, where were you born, Dot?
I was born in Kentucky, down near the Tennessee border. There's a military base there. I forget what it is, but the hospital was in Hopkinsville. But we actually lived in a little tiny town called Croton. It was not as big as
Hopkinsville.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking small in both cases, So you were almost a Tennessee gal, but you ended up being a Kentucky gal, and we've had an amazing life together. Both of us educators, both of us love the Lord. Both of us, had a chance to do some really amazing things in life. And you've written 3 books, and we're going to talk about those. But you also got to host President Clinton before all the Monica stuff came out, when you were principal at Daly Elementary School.
Yes.
And that was an amazing time. Share with our listeners a little bit about that.
Well, the Secret Service and I don't know whatever they were called, but guards were all over the school when I heard about it, which was on a Sunday. And we met at the school, and the local authorities were there too. And he was going to come the following Thursday. So they gave us a procedure we needed to follow. A Secret Service guy stayed in the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
You had Secret Service with you from the moment they decided Daly was the school,
right,
in order to protect the president.
Yes. And a bomb threat came into the school, but the Secret Service guy did something, and they found the caller.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I think within about 15 minutes, this bomb threat came in. They found who had made that call and arrested him, all in a very short period of time. So it was pretty amazing. You also had Wolf Blitzer and a whole bunch of folks coming to school, and they put literally a guard up around the school. So these big blue tarps, so there was no line of sight to the president when he was on the field. And all the kids were, out there, and all of the family and friends that came to visit and to hear the speech and stuff. So it's pretty amazing when the president of the United States comes to an elementary school campus, all of the things that happen and the excitement that kids go through. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican. It's president of the United States, and what a unique thing. But I remember one story in particular that all of the kids that were on bleachers behind the president, he would come up and shake their hands. And
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, nobody knew who was going to get to be on the stage with him. So as the students came through the security, they would wave some, to the stage, and the others were...
It's pretty random.
Yes. And they filed up there on the bleachers behind him. And when the whole thing was over, he turned around and shook hands a lot. And this little boy was on the bleachers, and he reached out, and just then he slipped down between the bleachers and he didn't get to shake hands, but he became famous for the story.
Yeah, it was interesting. He reached out and he slipped in between the holes in the bleachers there and never got to shake the president's hand. But one other thing that President Clinton did that was really unique, the kids had drawn pictures of him in the hallway, and he walked by and signed every one of the pictures.
Yes, the Secret Service guy was saying, hurry, you can't do this. He signed the pictures, and there was one picture, long legs and big ballooned feet, and he wrote, yes, I do have big feet.
That's great. Well, there were a lot of good stories that came out of that, and you spent over 30 years in education doing some amazing things, and you ended up your career at Ewing Elementary School as principal. And that was an English immersion school, and where you had kids in kindergarten learning English and Spanish at the same time. Yeah, tell a little bit about that.
Well, we had a great interest in helping the Spanish-speaking kids and non-Spanish-speaking kids. So we had Hmong students sign up, and non-speakers of English of any language.
Yeah.
But even the Spanish-speaking kids didn't know enough about reading Spanish, so there were Spanish-speaking kids that took the class, and it was you had a teacher who was bilingual and able to teach.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think you're learning your intellectual properties, the things that you learn in school, you're learning in 2 languages. And by the time you get through 6th grade, you're fluent and you're writing and doing all those things. And you now can go through middle school and high school, and you are prepared for life because you're multilingual, you're bilingual. Yeah, that was an amazing thing. You did some really good things. There was another crazy incident that happened at your school before you got there, but you were impacted by it. And that was folks, if you'll remember, there was an airplane that was coming out of the airport, and it had lost its fuel or had something go wrong with it. And it was coming down right at the Ewing Elementary School at lunchtime when the entire playground is full of kids.
Cafeteria
is packed. What went on with that?
Well, the pilots somehow raised the airplane to go above the school and crash on the street beyond the school.
Yeah, on Olive. It was really interesting because the kids can remember seeing the pilots' faces, and they saw the pilots almost waving the kids out of the way. Somehow they were able to energize that airplane enough to just get it over the cafeteria, so it went up just a little bit. I don't know how they did that. And then it ended up on Olive and Chestnut, crashing into the street there, and just created chaos, from that.
So no children were harmed. One person in an apartment across the street, I think, their apartment received some debris from the airplane, and it broke a window, and she died.
Yeah, and then there were some major burns and a few things like that. But the story doesn't end there, because when you became principal the next year, you guys had a chance to redo the library, and you did a commemorative thing for the library for the pilots.
Yes, we had a grant, a wonderful grant to remodel the school. So we remodeled the library into a beautiful setting, and we named it Anderson Sexton. That's where the two pilots were, Anderson Sexton Library.
They were heroes because they literally saved maybe 1,000 kids.
And they died in the wreck.
Yeah, and they died in the wreck, but they somehow got that plane up over the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And then the next year, or maybe 2 years after that, their families were invited back for a dedication service of the Anderson Sexton Library at Ewing Elementary School.
That's right. We had a ceremony, and some of the pilots' family members came from out of town, out of state, and it was very rewarding to see them.
That was pretty amazing. They were definitely heroes and things. But while you were principal at that school, you got this dual immersion program going. You had the Anderson Sexton Library. You had a lot of different things, exciting things going on. But you met a little China doll girl named Nia when you were principal. She would come to your office. Tell us a little bit about that. And folks, this is leading up to, in fact, we're going to go to that story in just a minute. We're going to take a break here. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. On the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. You can always catch us at KXEX 1550 AM, Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. We talk politics, education, religion, technology, sports, you name it. We've got a lot of things that we talk about, but you also can catch Good News with Larry Powell. Nothing but good news stories Monday through Friday at 10 and at 4. But we want to just encourage you to listen to 1550 AM. You'll hear something exciting every time you do. Well, Dot, we've been talking about you being principal at Ewing Elementary School in Fresno Unified on Olive Street, just off of Chestnut. And, that was an amazing time in your life because we talked about this little girl that you met. I think she was second grade at the time. And her name was Nia, and she started following you around. And folks, this is going to lead to a book called The Sunday Van Club. But Dot, share a little bit about Nia's story and you.
She actually did look like one of those little China dolls you see in the window, over in Monterey where they have gift shops.
Yeah, beautiful.
You see these little China dolls with a wobbly head or something, with the straight hair, cut off bangs. But I didn't know she was following me at first because I was with the camera crew coming to look at another grant project that we had to remodel some rooms. And she was curious and she was following us. And at one point, the cameraman said, something about her.
So here all the other kids are in class. You're out with the camera crew, and Nia is following you around, not saying anything, but just following you. And the camera crew sees what's going on. And then what happened?
Well, her curiosity saved, really start the book. We found out that she could speak English and Hmong, and she was fluent, and she would just get up out of class when it was boring and just walk down the hallway. She was actually 6 when I met her because in second grade, she turned 7 in November. So I met her just before she was 7, and the teacher said, she knows all the words, she can read everything. And she just gets up.
Very, very, very bright.
Yeah. So
as a second grader.
Yeah. So eventually I got to know her a little better. You get more details in the book. And day after day, she would say hi to me. She'd walk towards the office, stand like a little soldier. She's just tall, erect,
Yeah.
And
just inside your office door.
Yeah. And the office staff got to know her. Do you want to see Mrs. Powell? Yes. And so after a couple months, she asked, can I bring somebody with me? And I said, well, sure. So she brought a girl who was new to the class, new to the school, Christina. And I got to know Christina, and they became good friends, the two of them. And Christina her family had lived in Argentina. When they came out of the war region, the Vietnam, her grandparents and parents had a welcomed some of the refugees. And so then they had relatives in Fresno, so eventually they came. And she was very athletic, very bright. I remember she broke her leg or something while she was at Ewing, but she just carried on, with all of her stuff. And then my niece said, "Can I bring somebody else?" And then somebody else, and then somebody else. And pretty soon there were 9. And we just got fun. Some could come with me to walk around the campus. Nobody else left their class like my Nia, but then they came at recess or before school.
Well, you had this little entourage of 8 girls at the time, and they were following you all over campus, and you just became friends with them. So here's the principal with these 8 Hmong girls, and they were 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders at the time, and all of a sudden you're not far from retirement. You decided to retire early.
Yes, I just had a restless spirit always.
Yeah.
And I just thought I would retire early and do other things connected to children or
education.
Something. I didn't really have a plan.
Right.
I just thought this is right. So, the parents had a luncheon for me on the last Thursday of the week that I was going to leave. And they asked me if I could keep in touch with their little girls.
Because they had become your kids in a lot of ways.
And they didn't speak English, these parents. We had a majority of Hmong students of our whole...
Largest Hmong school in town.
Yeah, of our campus. It was a year-round school, a lot of Hmong. And through an interpreter, Mr. Vang, wonderful, I said, "I can if you let me take them to Sunday school, church on a Sunday." Yes, 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 yes. They all said yes. So I thought, okay, then that was Friday. That was my last day. And then that Sunday, in my green van, I went to all of their houses all over South Fresno.
Took an hour and a half to go pick them all up.
Yeah, pick them all up. And one of the girls that I had met, but she didn't come as often to the office, she was the last girl because her sister said, "Well, can Kali come?" It was her sister. She came and sat in the front. And she has the first chapter in the book because it was a miracle that she hung in there she was so frightened and even angry about not knowing English, not knowing the school system, and being new to the school in about maybe 3rd grade. But she had a wonderful teacher, Mrs. Faith Landis, who was like so sensitive to the fact that she couldn't speak. Faith had taught English in China before then. So Kali just thought it was a wonderful, she expressed herself like, "I was sinking, and then I met Mrs. Landis."
Wow.
And it was a wonderful thing. So she became bolder and stronger, and today she's an award-winning teacher. She's been teaching about 8 or 10 years with all kinds of awards, and she was in a school of Spanish speakers, so she went to Spain and learned Spanish. And
yeah, it's amazing. So you started with 8, you ended up with 9 in the van that first Sunday. You started picking them up every Sunday for 7 years plus.
Yeah.
And you would take them to high tea, you would take them to movies, you would take them to the park. They learned what it was like to be an American here in Fresno.
Yes.
And they got to experience things they never would have gotten to experience. And they became a big part of your life. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. They're now 28, 29, and 30 years old. But that was 20 years of mentoring. And you wrote a book, and the book is entitled The Sunday Van Club, Where a Faith Journey Leads.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing book.
Since we saw each other on Sundays, so that's the first word, Sunday. And I took him in my van. There's the van. And they were becoming a club, just no official club, but kind of getting to know each other, getting to know.
Because they didn't know each other that well. They were kind of separate and loners in a lot of ways.
There were 2 sisters, but the rest were kind of not with those kids, other girls.
Yeah.
And they became a club. So that's why the book is called The Sunday Van Club, Where a Faith Journey Leads.
Yeah.
Since I took them to church on Sundays, I would talk about Jesus Christ, and I would hand out lyrics to songs and play out on the cassette player
in your van.
In the van as I'm driving, they learned all the patriotic songs I knew, all the Sunday school songs I knew, and then they didn't need the lyric page. They would just sing, Jesus loves me.
This I know. Yes.
So it was great. And then starting with 9 and that whole year, then it dwindled to maybe 7 because 2 had responsibilities on a Sunday. Some got jobs like at McDonald's and stuff. And then when the others got cars and, so it kept going down to the youngest 2, Blah and Mania. So Mania was there every year, just on
Until she graduated almost from high school.
Yes. And so we had great times together, fun, laughter, and the Lord took care of us driving. And
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Folks, I want to read to you the back of the book, a couple of quotes here. It said, "When my father talked, his words were about going back." This is one of the girls speaking. "He reminisced and became nostalgic. He missed his previous life when things were better. It was a peaceful existence until the war." And then here's another quote from the book. "9 little girls, the children of Vietnam War refugees, found themselves in no man's land between their Southeast Asian roots and American culture. One elementary school principal, compelled by their heartrending stories, guided them on their journey to a new life. In their own words, the girls, now young women, shed light on the real experience of first-generation American life and how the love of just one person can change everything." This is an amazing book, Dot. Even though you're my wife, it's still an amazing book because you tell from your perspective with the 9 girls, but also they get to tell their stories as well. And the book is just chock full of emotion and of happiness and of sadness and of the adjustments necessary for a refugee to become American and in a country that they didn't know a lot about at all. And they ended up making it here. And almost every one of them now at 28, 29, 30 years old are successful and living really great lives. Vong Wanatua City Council in Clovis also works at Fresno State, just a great mentor, said this: "After reading this book, you'll want to run to the nearest elementary school to become a mentor." What a great thing to say. We're going to come right back in just a few minutes. But the book is called The Sunday Van Club, Where a Faith Journey Leads. And you're here with Dot Powell, who is the author. And we're going to talk a little more about that book just as soon as we return. This is Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. Be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. The People on the best talk in town.
Hey, you're listening to KXEX 1550 AM, and remember, Powell to the People is on Saturdays at 4, Sundays at 6. You can also catch us on Spotify just at your leisure and stream us anytime you'd like. Also, Good News with Larry Powell, nothing but good news stories, is on Monday through Friday at 10 and at 4 each day. But Dot, we're back with your book, The Sunday Van Club, Where a Faith Journey Leads, and absolutely remarkable stories in the book about each girl and their own lives and what they thought of being in America, being new to a land, learning to adjust. And, that story has gone on for 20 years and continues today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. We send texts, emails, phone calls, and we get together. They come every Christmas time for my birthday, and beautiful Hmong food, or we combine, fried chicken with fried rice.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And my Nia, who started it, was the first, and she was the last to ride in my van to go to Sunday school because she was the youngest of the group. Everybody else was older, in jobs, doing things, and she was there to the end.
Yeah.
And we would go to a place the same way, lunch, and then go to something exciting, the park, the movies, the museums.
I can
Yeah.
remember one picture that of you guys on a table out at Woodward Park, and the geese were chasing everybody, and everybody got up on the tables to get away from them.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I took sack lunches for them, like with ham sandwiches or something.
Yeah.
And the geese immediately smelled, and they came rushing towards the girls, and the girls were screaming and getting up on the table, seconds. And we are all on top of tables and just laughing our heads off.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And, all of this started with a parent who said, could you stay with the girls and continue to do something after you had retired?
Mm-hmm.
And it's turned out that these young women now are like our kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of our family, and we hear from them frequently, but we definitely get together for Christmas and get an opportunity, and they're teachers, they're medical workers, they're in education, they're
The IRS.
the IRS. Yeah, my Nia, we used to say she probably has a photographic memory, very, very bright, great in math and science.
And she was the top reader at Ewing.
Yeah,
year after year.
And we're talking second, third, and fourth grade, and she's reading more books than anybody in the school.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing seeing the level of achievement that they each have acquired, and how they've made a difference in their families as a result. And and folks, I really do encourage you to go to Amazon and simply put in the Sunday Van Club, because you can get a book, you can get a electronic version of it as well. So you can get a hard copy, or you can get a soft copy, or you can get an electronic copy. But the stories are just amazing of what it's like to be in America and to not know anybody, and to be so far away from your homeland, and how these girls have adjusted and have just become great American success stories.
Yes, they have. Each girl was assigned a chapter. Callie, the oldest girl, the first chapter, and my Nia, the youngest girl, the last chapter. And they wrote about their feelings and experiences, and I responded in each chapter. I had written some of the beginning and closing of the book, but it was a joint effort.
Yeah. It's really amazing. One of the quotes from in Pahua's section of the book is, because of my faith, I don't have to have blind faith. I have facts. It's not something that was made up. It's really interesting. You start looking at a night to remember, as I'm looking at some of the chapter heads in here. Unfortunate events, but happy endings in chapter 9. They lived life. They had good things happen to them, bad things happen to them, but they survived. And then it was Dear My Mua, and then Dear Dot. So it was a back and forth, and you kept almost all of the communication for 20 years that had taken place between you and the 9 girls. Pretty amazing stories when you think about it.
And even when I couldn't pick them up, there were occasions like I had a hip replacement, and then my mother died in 2004, and I was not able to some of that time. But they remained faithful, calling me and sending letters. Several were great writers. They would write letters, and it didn't stop.
So you kept all of that communication, and this book reflects a lot of that, it truly is an amazing story. And I would just encourage people to check it out, because each one of these young ladies went through some amazing stories of how they got here. Let me read another section here. My mother-in-law dressed me in traditional Hmong wedding attire. My mother-in-law made my dress. My mother sewed all the silver coins on and gave me special wedding jewelry. At the end of the day, Ku and I walked to our car and did not look back, so no bad omen would harm our marriage. Interesting. So they carry with them, their family traditions. And that's one thing that even though we took them to Sunday school and things, we talked to them about honoring your mother and father, and about the importance of your culture in their lives.
Yes. When I first told them about Jesus, they were all excited and said, okay, if I accept him, does that mean my parents are with me? And I said, they each have to make their own decision. And that's what you girls have to do. Make your own decision. I'm not going to pressure you, but your parents and family, each person has to make a decision. Do I follow Christ? and only Christ?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I stay with other beliefs? So that put pause on some of the girls. They just wondered how it would be. Pahua, the first one to declare Jesus as her personal savior, and still to this day, she asked her parents or told her parents about it, and she decided to not announce it to the Hmong relatives until she was 18, that she was going to get baptized in a Christian church.
Mm-hmm.
So she was attending a church that she had chosen, and she heard them announce a baptism service was going to be at Easter. And her birthday was a couple months before, when she was turning 18. So after she was 18, she got baptized, and then she could tell everybody.
That was really a great story, and how she was true to her family's wishes,
Mm-hmm.
and then declared her faith in the Lord, at Easter in a water baptismal service,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really amazing. You have a name for each of the girls, or a title that goes with them. Like Christina here is the survivor. Let me read a section. Streets echoed like a war zone. In the still of the night, the silence was broken by the high-pitched cracks, bullets leaving their guns and beating a path toward my house. The rhythmic cadence of multiple bullets woke Mom, Dad, and kids. Mother recognized the unmistakable sound of gunshots. "Floor! Get to the floor," she screamed. The trajectory of the ammo flew right over the pillows of once sleeping children. As we jumped to the floor, our family stayed down, shaking, crying, and smelling the odor of gunfire. I mean, powerful, powerful images of what the girls went through, and some of the struggles that they faced. But every story is a story of overcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And what you did with them, mentoring them for 20 years and continuing now, help them get through and thrive, not just survive, but thrive through some very challenging circumstances.
Yes. And some of the girls were threatened. The gang members, wanting to hurt or kill them. And some of the girls had to leave Fresno for a while.
Yeah, lived out of state
to escape the gangs in Fresno. And some of the other girls just were strong and steady. They would tell their parents what we were doing. The parents, especially the mothers, were eager to hear about it.
Yeah.
Some of the resistance or questioning came from the fathers.
Yeah. And, in a patriarchal society, that was just part of what they learned to live with and to adjust to, because the fathers were the ones that were important in the family.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were sad about that, because if they were back in Laos or Vietnam, they would set the rules, and everybody followed it.
Yeah.
But here, with the equality of men and women, the mother had just as much word. Her word meant just as much.
Yeah.
And the girls were noticing this, and they see it at schools and everywhere else.
Powerful women,
Yeah.
women succeeding.
And so some of the fathers, I noticed, became sad and depressed. It was hard.
Yeah, that was quite an adjustment for them. Pang, one of the 9, was called the Beauty, and she was stunning, and
Very tall.
Very tall. Yes, especially for Hmong. But here's what she said: "I'll never forget what I learned in the Sunday Van Club. It will always stay with me." It's really neat, because you're getting their reflections, not just what your reflection was of them, but their reflections on this whole adventure of being with Mrs. Powell, the principal, and learning a lot of different things. So interesting stuff. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break here. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style, and we'll be right back with more of the Sunday Van Club.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
Is this our last segment, Jose? Wow, went fast.
People on the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back. We're so glad to have you with us today. I've got my special guest, my beautiful bride, Dot Powell, who is an author. She's a retired principal, elementary school, and has written a book called The Sunday Van Club. And we've been talking about the 9 Hmong girls that you've mentored for over 20 years, who started in your elementary school, and started with Nia, who came to your door, stood there for weeks on end, and finally were able to get some communication going. Turned out she was brilliant in English, brilliant in Hmong. She was the best reader in school, looked like a little China doll. She now works for the IRS, so she can come and audit you. And, she's an amazing person, but a kind of a loner at the time. And yet she went out and got 7 other loners who basically were off by themselves and not connected to anybody. Some were shy, some were afraid, some were just off, just standing by themselves. Pretty soon your office had 8 girls in it. And then when you retired, you ended up in a van. That's the reason for the Sunday Van Club. You ended up in a van picking them up. It took an hour and a half to go around and get them. And at one of your last stops, Vile, one of the girls, asked if her sister Kao Lee could join you, and that ended up with the 9 in the Sunday Van Club. And so for 20 years, you've been mentoring them. One of the unique things you did in your book, Chapter 6, Blah, one of the youngest of the crew, was called the Determined. And her story, let me read just a little bit about her story. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, King Pa and Queen Ma had 4 lovely daughters with long black hair, like everyone else in the village. One day, Queen Ma said it was time for a new baby to be born. "Is it a boy?" King Pa asked, and when he heard the cries. "No, we have a new princess," said Queen Ma. "Come in." The father and daughter stepped into the tent, but remained frozen at the entrance as they stared at the baby. "She had golden threads on her head," said King Pa. "Her shiny black hair must have turned yellow." Now, all of her sisters had traditional Hmong hair, which is very dark, but Blah had beautiful, beautiful golden hair. And so she was a little bit different than the rest of the girls. And she has turned out to be an educator and doing just great things. And
yes, she is.
What a wonderful attitude she has in life.
Mm-hmm. That's true. She, as a kid, was teased by the other Hmong kids.
Sure.
She was blonde. And she got so stressed about it, she asked her mom to dye her hair black, which she did, but she didn't get to stay that way because it would grow out and it would be blonde. So she stopped dyeing it black. But she's had beautiful hair all these years, and sometimes she does dye it like pink or blue or something, just to have a different color.
Kind of a modern color. Yeah.
Yeah. And she stayed in there, got her education. She was highly requested by teachers to be their aide. See, we were year round, and when they were off track, they could come back as like a teacher's aide.
Student aide, yeah, that's
teacher.
neat.
And she was like number 1 being requested because this tiny little girl,
blonde hair,
could get the whole class lined up and take them to the library without a peep,
And so she's become a really good educator. She's a great young lady now. And then Pahua we mentioned, but she was called the leader. Here's what she wrote. "I used to be mean to girls who talked behind my back. I'd step right into their faces and yell at them. I made many girls scared and cry real tears. I really wanted to yell at them when I heard what they had said about me." And she's turned out to be one of the most amazing, talented young ladies who was off by herself, got into the Sunday Van Club, and now is a leader at her church. She's just got fashion. She's a fashionista.
She is. Yes. And she has led her whole family to Jesus, her mother and her siblings, and took them to church, and they were welcomed at her church. So she's lived it, even though she's been through terrible things like her thyroid affected her growing, and it would be not cancer, but Graves' disease.
Yeah, she had a real battle with her thyroid.
And back and forth, and causes, consequences in her body, and just terrible. But she taught herself the guitar, and she led the youth group in singing. and she knew a lot of songs that she had learned in the van. And her pastor's wife said, "How do you know all these songs?"
Well, an hour and a half in a van singing every gospel song and every country song you can imagine.
Yeah.
So
that
all
was
the
fun.
children's songs. Yeah, she's an amazing lady.
And she does lead. She's a leader of her family. She shares everything with them and
Yep.
helps out at home. I mean, she's really influenced her own family.
Well, she's helped her Hmong family adjust to American life, and her sisters are successful. She's successful. Mom's successful. And then we come to my Mua, and we're not going to get to talk about all of them. We don't have time to do that. But she said her goal was to be an excellent teacher, and my Mua is just an amazing teacher. She started at Adams School, which is a very challenging school, and she's just mild-mannered, but she just loves kids, and she's so bright. And she just got in and became a teacher of excellence, and she's now at a different school. But boy, I just love what she has done with her life, and she's an amazing. She also was smart in that she did like a lot of Americans did, and she got a lot of credit card, charges on things. But she went to Dave Ramsey, and she learned how to budget, and she's gotten rid of all of her debt. She's an amazing lady and just a great person for kids.
She got married recently. Wonderful guy, and I've seen him over the years helping, and he said he liked everything about the Sunday Van Club, and he wanted to copy it. So he went out and did good things for people. She's expecting her first baby, and she's still teaching. And I want to tell you about Pang, too. Pang has a beautiful little girl and got pregnant with the second, and she had miscarriages over and over, and it was a hard time. She finally was saving the pregnancy, and a boy was born at 4 months. And the doctor said, "This is what we call either a stillbirth, miscarriage, abortion. What do you want?" And she said, "Save the baby."
Yeah. Wow.
So they worked for many, many hours and weeks and now months. And he's still in the Valley Children's Hospital and will be for a long time. He was born on Christmas Eve, but the due date was April 18th.
And it looks very much like Leon is his name.
Yes.
Is going to survive.
Yes, he's so tiny.
Yeah.
But she prayed. She said she was praying the entire time through all of this, and the pain and the injuries of his body. And
it's amazing. Your girls have all learned to access health care, to access all of the programs. They're successful in life, have great jobs, have their own health care. It's really amazing, the success story that each girl is. Chapter 3, you talk about the beginnings. It's called The Beginnings of the Sunday Van Club. And you have this statement in there. It's anonymous, but it says, "The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you discover why." And boy, you think about Cow Lee, who is the oldest of the group. She's now moved to Alaska, where hopefully she's going to be teaching, but she may be going into real estate. She's the one that learned Spanish, in order to be able to teach her Spanish-speaking kids better. Amazing how much energy and Viva for life that they've gotten from you, realizing they could be anything they want to be, and you've helped them understand that. But here's what you said to Cow Lee. You were the last girl who joined us in the Sunday Van Club that first Sunday. You came out of the house looking ill at ease after Vile said, "Can my sister Cow Lee come?" I had 8 girls in my van already, but sure, sit in the front and you can help me. And from that moment on, she's been just a joy in our lives. And to see how she has been successful. She's married to Cam, who is in the Army. He's a soldier boy. He's a soldier, and he's been a recruiter, and he spent time in the South getting training, and now he's been moved to Alaska, and they're in Anchorage, Alaska. We'll have to go up and visit them. But I look at each one of your girls, And it's amazing the stories they come from, the places that they were, some dirt floors in the family, and now successes in life. Full Americans love America, love you, love their lives and where they are, and you help them get here. Do you have any last words you'd like to share? We're just about out of time.
Well, they've adapted very well to American culture, and I think 3 or 4 now are married, and they've chosen well. Some among young men, from the beginning, when I pick up the girls, I would see them just like slouching on a couch watching porn, or McDonald's or fast food wrappers thrown out. They were less motivated than the girls.
Yeah.
And the girls knew that. And so they waited until they found someone who was strong, productive, with goals in life.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad. It's just a wonderful thing.
Well, it's so neat to see. And I just encourage you folks, check out the book. It's called The Sunday Van Club, Where a Faith Journey Leads. Go to Amazon, and all you got to do is put in the Sunday Van Club or put .jb Powell, and you can get a copy of the book. And I tell you what, you'll be laughing, you'll be crying, you'll be celebrating at 9 Hmong girls for 20 years that you've mentored, Dot. Congratulations on your book and great things with the kids. You've been listening to Powell to the People. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining us.